It's Field of 68 After Dark, Sirius XM, Channel 84, YouTube, Twitter, all that jazz. We're here with you until midnight. It's Thursday evening in college basketball. A huge weekend is upon us in this sport. Big 12 SEC Challenge seemingly always delivers, and we are presented by Bet Rivers. Get ready, folks, to get on your couch and place some bets here this weekend because the slate is going to be electric. I'm John Fanta. I'm joined by the pride of the Pittsburgh Panthers, Ashton Gibbs, tonight, joined by the great Rob Dauster, who's even got a nice glass of bourbon to close things down on a Thursday night in college basketball. And we are here with you to talk now about a team in the conference that, quote-unquote, just means more. For Auburn basketball, things are about to mean more because their board of trustees came out earlier today and said they are going to make that commitment. The plan is to make a full-on commitment to basketball because of Bruce Pearl and to keep Bruce Pearl at Auburn. There were reports earlier today on this Thursday that Louisville and Bruce Pearl could be a match, and Bruce Pearl was on some morning shows talking about the ideology that he could leave Auburn for Louisville or for another job that's open. But as the day wraps up, all reports have turned to the Auburn Tigers and Bruce Pearl marriage continuing. Rob, what do you make of this news?
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see him stay at Auburn and sign a big old fat contract. I think he's like 61 years old. Sign a big old fat contract, get some kind of clause in there that says his son Steven is gonna have a shot at being the coach in waiting, something similar to like what Kelvin Sampson got with Kellen Sampson at Houston, and then get this deal that's going to take him into retirement, retire at Auburn. You know, you got this thing rolling right now. You've turned a football school that had a basketball program that was completely dead into what we saw on last Friday night with fans lining up outside of the building 24 hours before a game was supposed to tip off. It was 38 degrees in Auburn, Alabama, and you have fans waiting outside the arena overnight to get in. Overnight. Like the idea that Bruce Pearl has built that at Auburn is unbelievable. And look, I've said it on the show. I've said it on Twitter. I've said it on the DTF podcast. I've said it literally everywhere that if I was Maryland or I was Louisville, I would take a blank check and I would take that check and I would put it on Bruce Pearl's agent's desk. And I would say, make it be not about the money. Whatever Auburn's going to offer him for a deal, whatever Maryland's going to offer him, we're offering that too. Don't make it not about the money. And honestly, I don't think it's going to end up being about the money. I think Bruce likes it in Auburn. I think he likes what he's building, and I think he loves the idea of being able to turn this thing over to his son when it's all said and done. But look, Auburn's here to stay, Ashton. They ain't going anywhere.
Oh, for sure, man. I just think the excitement that Bruce Pearl brings, and obviously the recruiting. You talk about, the Isaac Okoro, Sharif Coopers, the now Jabari Smiths, like the excitement that he brings year by year. And it starts with the recruits. And then, he's a player's coach. He gets the fans into it. And even their style of play, going up and down, I just think overall, like I would just give him a blank check.
I want to ask you about that, Ashton. You said he's a player's coach, right? When you were at Pitt, you were a man that was not unfamiliar with a heat check, right? You enjoy taking shots. How important is it? Like we asked Bruce about that, and he said that like one of the most important things to him is coaching confidence in his players and making sure that like even if they take shots that make you just say like, oh man, what was that? That they're going to take it the next time. That they're going to believe that they can make that shot because that's just the way that he operates. So when you have a guy that coaches you like that, how important is that as a player?
Honestly, it's everything. When you can live with the bad shots but live with the good ones as well. Make or miss, and because confidence is everything. Whether you make a mistake, turnover, whatever the case may be, if your coach is backing you and he's telling you to shoot that next one, that goes a long way in your psyche, especially as a shooter. I was a shooter. Coach Dixon, he literally was telling me to shoot every time I got the ball after a while. So That's what I wanted to do initially. That's why I even went to Pitt. But when you have a coach literally backing you, especially in college, it's one thing to do it in high school, for the most part, that's more prevalent, but you rarely get that in college. So when you see a coach that's a player's coach that's telling you to listen, be confident and don't look at me, just worry about the next shot, that goes a long way.
Think about this for a second. Bruce Pearl's SEC record as the head coach of Auburn, now 8 seasons. The record is 67-67, meaning there have been bad patches. And he started out with a 15-20 year followed by an 11-20 year, then an 18-14 season in which they go 7-11 in the SEC. It didn't just happen overnight. It's not like he was a miracle worker from the get-go. But what's it say, Rob, about Bruce Pearl that at Auburn, you could have 3 years like that and they'll build up to a point where you made the Final Four and you're basically looked at as highly as you could be as the basketball coach of the Auburn Tigers, where football, no matter who's coaching the basketball team, is always going to be king. And yet he's been able to give basketball a very distinctive, special place on that campus.
I think it's crazy that he's been there for 8 years. First of all, when you said he's been there for 8 years, I had to do a double take on that one because it does not feel like he's been there for 8 years. Second of all, he's been to 2 NCAA tournaments in 7 years. And yes, he would have gone to the one that was canceled in 2020. And he's going to obviously go to this one. And then last year's, they self-imposed a postseason ban. That was strategic because they knew they weren't going to be good enough to make it into the tournament. So I know that there's a whole bunch of caveats, but he's been to 2 tournaments in 7 years, and everybody wants to hire this dude at what are unequivocally like top 20 programs in college basketball. Maryland wants him, Louisville wants him, or at least they should want him. And look, I think that says a lot about what he is as a coach. Because look, the thing that he does better than anything else is inspire enthusiasm, right? And I think that what you're looking at, one, the success he had at Tennessee and the success he had at Milwaukee and what he did at Southern Indiana, Division II school before he left all those. But it's the fact that people are so locked in and engaged, and you have these sellouts and you're seeing the success and the attractive style of play. Like, just imagine if you have a personality like Bruce Pearl's at a school with a fan base as crazy as Louisville's and as crazy as Maryland's. It would be insane. Yeah, people would not survive. It would be a public health hazard.
Yeah, I think it goes back to his style of play, and that's why he ends up getting the recruits that he does as well. And it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch. He ends up getting the recruits. It all just ties in together. So now, you put him at Louisville or even at Maryland. Maryland in particular, in terms of, recruiting, that whole Maryland, DC base, I think he would go crazy there, to be honest with you. I think he would do really well.
Think about this, Ashton. Let's remove money here. So if you're Bruce Pearl, you're at Auburn, you're king of the world, you've been to a Final Four, you've led this program to historic heights. Think about this for a moment before posing the question to you guys. Auburn, when they went to the 2018 NCAA tournament, it was their first appearance in the Big Dance since 2003. 2003, 15-year gap just to make the field of 64, what becomes 68. We are the field of 68 after dark, by the way, Sirius XM, channel 84.
Got to get the plug in there, baby.
The conference tournament, though, they win the conference tournament in 2019. Auburn basketball has only won the SEC conference tournament one other time in 1985. So part of the enhancement of Bruce Pearl being viewed as Auburn basketball's king is that if you look at the previous 30 years of the program from when he got there, there's not much subject matter to really write home about. So, Ashton, I ask you this. If you are Bruce Pearl and money's not an object here, you get to pick Auburn, staying there, Louisville, heading there, Maryland. Which chair are you taking?
I'm staying at Auburn. I think just the quality of life, like you said, 30 years and the trustees and the support that he has right now, you can't really beat it. But being 61, I just think the quality of life is everything right now. He's going to be able to it's almost going to be a machine at this point. Like literally when you talk about the recruits, the style of play, everything is kind of just going to be year by year. It's going to be the same thing. So he doesn't really have to change much. And now he has even more support. So I would just stay put.
I would take Maryland.
Really?
Why, Rob? Why would you would take Maryland over Louisville?
Yes. For a couple of reasons. One, I think the amount of talent that is in the DMV that does not go to the schools that are around the DMV is just unfathomable. Think about all the players that have come from Team Takeover, that came from the DC Premier programs, that have come out of out of Washington, DC, out of Southern Maryland, out of Baltimore, out of Northern Virginia. He would clean up. There's a lot of, I guess, for lack of a better term, beef with a lot of some of those power brokers or in that city and around that city. There's a reason why there aren't any DeMatha kids that go to Maryland. And I think if you're going to have someone like Bruce Pearl with that kind of a personality, would be able to get all of that talent there. That's the big one. I think that it's the easiest way to have a consistent pipeline of players coming into your program. He can get it done at Auburn. I have no doubt about that. I think it would be significantly easier and maybe a higher level of player that you could consistently get at Maryland. Two,
significantly easier in the Big Ten?
In the Big Ten, though, you think?
No, in that area.
Okay.
I think it's more difficult to recruit to Auburn, Alabama from the South than it would be to recruit from DC, Maryland, Virginia to the University of Maryland. And two, here's my biggest takeaway. I think that what he does is turns the Big Ten on its head, because the style of play that he plays is unlike anything else in the Big Ten. Everybody in the Big Ten has a big plotting five. And you know what would happen if you play teams that have big plotting fives going up against what Bruce Pearl wants to do? They got no chance. So I think he turns Maryland into a juggernaut in that league. I think they're a consistent like top 5, 7, 8 team in college basketball. I think that they're winning Big Ten titles. And I think that what he does is he becomes a legend at the university and puts them back on top. That's just the way that I see this going in my head. Now, it could be a complete flop if he would go there. Again, I think he stays at Auburn, but I just think that is the absolute perfect marriage.
Wow. I did not see that coming from you. Bruce Pearl to Maryland after we heard Bruce Pearl Louisville, Bruce Pearl stays at Auburn. It just shows this is going to be a wild coaching carousel in college basketball, folks, and it is still only January. It is crazy to think about that.